Get ready with entrepreneurs. Welcomes Dorothy for next level presentations. Dorothy Bossé, empowerment coach, certified as master coach. We welcome her back again. She's a transformational coach and life and health coach with 20 years of progressive experience across corporate sales and marketing. So she understands what we need. As founder of Inspired by Choice, Dorothy offers entrepreneurs the workshops, coaching programs, and inspired ideas they need to unleash their full potential in business and life. So learn more about Dorothy on her website at inspiredbychoice.ca.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Laura, for the beautiful intro. Just one more click here and I'm ready to go. So we're talking about next level presentations today. And you already know, Laura gave me that beautiful introduction, but if you want to take a second to scan my QR code so that we're properly connected, I'll tell you just a tiny little bit more about myself. During that 20 years across sales and marketing, I actually had the privilege of receiving lots of professional training on the front of becoming a better speaker and a better presenter, which was critical for the different roles that I had to be able to speak and present with influence and get lots of people on board, inspired and wanting to do what I'm asking them to do. Now that I've stepped into this entrepreneurial world, I'm noticing that people are presenting all the time at pitches, pitch competitions, and networking events, and in other venues that are designated at them being able to sell their products and services. And what I'm observing is that people come into this entrepreneurial world from various different backgrounds, and they haven't necessarily benefited from professional training. They may not have even had the benefit of receiving some constructive feedback on their presentations and their presentation style. So they are doing the best with what they know. Now, my intention for you today is that you receive a few tips and tricks and ideas that will take your own presentation style to the next level, or that through seeing me present this, you will validate for yourself that I am actually better than I ever realized and have that confidence and courage to go forward and present with ease. So to get started, let's identify the signs of what might be a next level presentation. A next level presentation will have kept the audience engaged throughout the whole presentation. It will make that audience think, or if appropriate, feel something. That presentation will deliver on the objectives or any promises that it made that got you into the presentation in the first place. And finally, and this is the step that very often doesn't happen, but a next level presentation will make the audience remember your key messages after they walk away from the presentation. So keep that in mind. Now, I do want to start off by busting a couple of myths. So if you've been telling yourself the following lies, you can release them as of today. And myth one, you have to be extroverted and charismatic to be a great presenter. Not necessarily. You have to have fancy and expensive looking slide decks. Not at all. And I think TED Talks have proven that. Some topics are just too difficult or dry to be turned into a great presentation. In fact, the truth is that anyone can deliver a great presentation on any topic if they master the magic formula, Dorothy's magic formula. So what is it? Well, here it is. The magic formula, to me, is like a beautifully choreographed dance where you have the lead, yourself, as the presenter. Your presentation is a reflection of you, something that amplifies and mirrors what you are trying to achieve. But this beautiful dance between presenter and presentation is only as effective and as powerful as the value of the message that is being delivered. Think of it as a dance to no music. If the message isn't powerful, if the message isn't inspiring, then the dance is flat. And because the message is what can take your presentation exponentially to another level, it's on the message that I'd like to start chatting. So crafting your message has to start with purpose so that you can stay on purpose throughout the rest of the presentation. And I want to highlight for you that a topic is not purpose. I will speak about presentations. I will give you a sales pitch. I will give you a company overview. All of those are topics, but they don't have a specific purpose. So how do you take it to purpose? A purpose identifies what question is the audience answering. So let me give you a few examples. What question might the audience be answering? Well, maybe it's a decision-making question. Should I or shouldn't I? Should I buy from you? Should I buy this product? Maybe they're problem solving for a problem that they have. What do I do with this problem? What's the best solution for it? Maybe it's a status update presentation, in which case you want to answer the questions of where are we? Why are we there? If we're not where we should be, how do we get back on track? And if it's an educational presentation like this one, well, then you want to answer the questions of what is it? How do I do it? Or how do I do it better? What I want you to take away from this is if you have no question that is being answered, then you don't have a purpose. Without a good purpose, you don't have solid takeaways. And if you don't have strong purpose and takeaways, then it begs the question, did we actually need a presentation at all? Because if there's no purpose and no clear takeaways, then maybe that could have been an email or a link to a website. Start with purpose and stay on purpose. So then you can start crafting your message. And just like with everything Laura's been teaching us about marketing, the message starts with the audience. And you cater your message to your audience. So I've given you examples of different audiences here in my pretty little bubbles. An executive audience will want a very different tone, style, language than a very casual poolside audience than an on the site audience versus a spa type audience. So your target audience, what language do they like to communicate in? What style are they looking for? And at the heart of the matter, what's in it for them? What's in it for them? I know that what's in it for you. You want my money. You want my investment. You want my buy-in on something. But what do I get in return for all of those things? Spend the time in crafting the message to give me insights of what I get in return. And as you're crafting your message, think about the fact that if I've signed up to watch your presentation, then I want to be rewarded for that. Because if I am here with you, I am giving you my most precious commodity. Can somebody tell me in chat what that commodity might be? Time. Yeah, I'm getting the answer from Jared that perhaps it's time, and that's a common answer. But here's the catch. The catch is I can tell you you're going to have 60 minutes of my time, but if you are not entertaining, interesting, or useful to me, you will lose me. You will have my time, but you will not have, hold on, grand reveal, you will not have my attention. So the greatest commodity that we can get from another human being beyond time is getting and keeping their attention. So craft your messages to make sure that they're at least entertaining, interesting, useful to that target audience, and ideally some combination of all of the above. And to help you do that, I want to make sure that you're familiar with these two acronyms, THINK and KISS. Think helps you bring your presentation messages through some very valuable filters. Is what I'm telling them true? Is it going to be helpful to this audience? Is it phrased in a way that's inspiring? Am I focusing only on the things that are necessary for them to know? And am I presenting this information in a way that's kind and positive? And of course, most people are familiar with the KISS principle. Keep it simple, sweetheart. And here, this is a call out to all of us subject matter experts. Pay attention in your industry. Do you use a lot of acronyms? Are there specific industry terms that you're very comfortable with, but your audience might not be? Do you use slang or obscure references? If you do, then pay extra attention to simplify it down for other audiences. Because at the end of the day, Your big so what? Click, click. Your big so what needs to be about 1 to a maximum of 3 key messages or takeaways. Anything beyond 3, people will stop remembering. They won't be able to recall them. If you're trying to sell something or get an audience to do something very specific for you, keep it to 1 call to action and make sure that the overall message is so clear and memorable that if you could run it past a little kid in their own words, they can say it back to you and recall it back to you. That presentation is proofed, or that message is proofed across any audience, any background. So get your hands on a little kiddo, run your presentation past them, and see what they say and what they can remember from it and learn from their feedback. So that's the message. Now let's get into the actual presentation. The presentation here, like I said, it's a medium that's going to support and amplify your message. And as you know, there's this myriad of different tools that you could use to do that. Many people, most people lean on a slide deck, but of course you have other options, like you could use a whiteboard. Maybe it's appropriate to bring in a little acting or role playing. Maybe props are appropriate. Maybe you are the presentation. Again, TED Talks oftentimes. But the point behind this one is it is only there as far as it can amplify, multiply, and support your message. A mistake many people make is that they put their entire presentation onto their slide deck and they read it back to us, in which case it is the deck that's trying to carry the presentation, not the presenter. It needs to be the other way around. Remember that. You lead, the deck supports. So how to do that? Keep it clean and uncluttered. Anything that you show us, anything that you decide to use from that entire list needs to have a very good purpose. The so what of you putting it up there. It has to be visible and legible. And that one might sound obvious, but here's the kicker. Right now we're all on Zoom and most of us can see this easily. Now, I don't know that Jared can because he's seeing it on a tiny little screen on in a car. And if I was going to transpose this presentation and present it in a room with 100 people, chances are it's projected up above, maybe 10, 20 feet away from them. This exact same slide will not translate into that room. So when you're working on something at home and you know you're going to be in front of a very large audience, get your butt up, go to the other end of the house and look at that screen and see if you can still read your slide. Because if you can't read it from the other end of the room, then that large audience will not be able to see what you're showing them on a big screen overhead. That's one that I see missed all the time. It probably looked amazing when it was in their face, but it doesn't translate to a larger room. Keep it simple. Talk to us about the conclusions. Don't overload us with data. And whatever beautiful technology you want to bring in to amplify your message, please test it first. If you're going into an environment where you don't know if the Wi-Fi works, you don't know if we're going to be able to hear the sound from YouTube, or that the link is going to work, then have a backup. Maybe just use an image and then send us the link later so we can look at it afterwards. But make sure that if you're going to bring in complicated technology, that you've tested it and you know it's going to work for you. And when you've done all of these things, then you can start to play and use the presentation where the medium is the message. And what do I mean by that? Years ago, I got to see this fantastic presentation by a gentleman who said, if you want me to think that you're funny, don't tell me you're funny. Tell me a joke. If I want you to think that I'm a great presenter, I don't need to waste my breath telling you for 5 minutes about all the great presentations that I've done in the past. This presentation, this interaction better be so dynamic and so interesting that the experience of it resonates with you and makes you feel that I'm a great presenter. The best way for people to get your point is to experience it. And on that note, there are some warnings that I'd like to put out here. And some straight up thou shalt nots. Please, folks, thou shalt not underline titles as a form of formatting. Underlines are saved for emphasis and to really make a point. It is not a formatting tool for presentations. Please don't use hard to read fonts or hard to read and see colors. And please, please do not data dump on your audience. Because when I see a data dump from Excel or from another chart, I know that you've chosen your convenience over mine. Because it was easy for you to take that screenshot and just dump it on the slide deck, but now I have to do the work that you were supposed to do for me, and I have to decipher where to look and what I'm looking at. Guide me to that answer. Don't make me have to find it myself. Please try not to go crazy on formatting and different types of animation. And here's a very simple one. Avoid misaligning your margins because that very same message looks so much better when it's structured, clean, and crisp. And this brings me to another point. Don't get into a shouting match with your presentation. If I've got all sorts of interesting information here on this slide, and I'm talking to you about something completely different, you are now torn between what you're going to do. Are you going to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth right now? Or are your eyes going to pull you to try to read what's on that slide deck? Because maybe it's relevant, but maybe it's not. Now you're torn. Now you're distracted. It's not fair. So if you have something on a slide, whatever you're speaking about should reflect and support that slide. You should not go into a shouting match between each other. And that's why I added that last point. Thou shalt not fight your slide for audience attention. And now that we've talked a little bit about the presentation, let's talk about you, the presenter. Just like Laura's been telling us in marketing, people love a presenter that they feel they know, like, and trust. So let's make this very, very simple. Let's start with a good presentation. If you want to have a good presentation, you will be clear and articulate. Might sound very simple, but speak slowly, enunciate your words. If you are aware that you have a strong accent, take extra care to space out your ideas and to enunciate the words. Use the magic of breath and pause. If you have lots of great ideas to share with us, you have to give us pauses so those ideas can sink in. If you talk without pause, I don't have an opportunity to absorb the first idea before you take me to the next idea, and I can't retain it. Similarly, and women, we are especially notorious for this. If you're delivering a presentation in person, you will have to use your belly to allow breath. A lot of us are walking around on sucked in tummies and not giving ourselves access to the full power of our breath to be heard. So breathe and use your breath. And come prepared and practice ahead of time. It doesn't matter if you think you're a fantastic speaker, a natural speaker, or if you think you are a beginner. Practice truly does make perfect. If you don't take the time to practice, a few things are likely to happen. You will go on rambles. You will miss the key messages that were so important to you to deliver. And this one, the greatest violation of all, you might end up going over time. And the moment you go over time, it doesn't matter how interesting your content is. It doesn't matter how great this idea is. You and I had a contract. You were going to speak for 20 minutes. You were going to speak for 60 minutes. You have violated our contract. I no longer trust you, and I'm having a hard time liking you. It's so easy to avoid. Practice and keep it within the time. Anybody, no matter what your background is, no matter what your skill set is, if you follow these basic steps, will deliver a good presentation. So let's now talk about what will make that presentation next level. Well, you'll start with some form of icebreaker. You're going to tell us a little bit about yourself, right? Something about your background, something about your style, maybe an idea, a joke, something that sets the tone of how we're going to be interacting over this. And you're going to talk to us with authority. And this is a fun one for me as a life coach because imposter syndrome comes up. Who am I to be an authority on this? I don't know enough. I am going to give you instant authority. Watch. Do you have some form of experience around the topic you're talking about? Do you bring to the table some skills and insights that are relevant to this topic? And did you take some time to focus on this topic in preparation for this talk while the rest of us were busy doing something else? Then you, my friend, have instant authority here, and we want to hear from you. You have experience, you have skill, and you focused on this area, you have authority. You deserve to be up there. So own it. And then be intentional with your energy. Now, I used a picture of a coach that I deeply respect because I love this woman's energy, but I also used it because we often confuse the word energy with being hyper. Not everyone has to be hyper, and not every situation is appropriate for someone to show up super rah-rah and hyper. Intentional energy could be stoic. It could be very peaceful. It could be empathic. It could be professional. You get to choose what type of energy you bring into your presentation that feels authentic to you and appropriate to the situation. What you don't want is unintentional energy, which could be nervous, it could be bored, it could be arrogant, it could be defensive, or worse, it could be defeated. So if you are intentional about the energy you bring, you won't accidentally come across in a way you don't want to. And ultimately, bring your passion and a bit of your personality to the presentation. And again, it's whatever personality that you have, that personality will be fantastic. When I was in grade 11, I had this math teacher. Wasn't particularly charismatic or charming at all. And she would spend so much time drawing out these long algebra equations for us and solving these equations. And when she would finish, without fail, she would take a step back, look at the board, smile with this sense of satisfaction and say, wow, look at that. Look how beautifully you can disguise a 1. And her appreciation of the subject and her love of what she is doing was contagious. And it made me care about it just a little bit more. And even more powerfully, it made me remember her some 30 years later. Just a little bit of personality goes a very long way. It doesn't matter what your personality is. Let us see it so that we can like you and get your passion. And finally, I want to leave you with a few language tips. Language that undermines you. Language that while you're out there doing your best to look professional, powerful, and authentic is going to cut you right off at the knees. So from this day forward, you can eliminate completely kinda and sorta. First of all, they're not even real words. I promise you, you will not miss them. But for some reason, and you will notice this because I pointed it out, there's a new epidemic. It's a new out there, and people are injecting these into their language, into their communications where they do not need it. Every sentence with these sounds so much better without them. The next group I'd love for you to eliminate, but you might need them in 5% of instances, so I'll let you keep them if you promise you will use them by rare exception only. I'm just starting out as an entrepreneur. I'm just offering this little insight. I'm just here to tell you. Say the same thing without the I'm just. I guarantee you it's going to sound better. I'm sorry. Self-explanatory. And I'm trying. This one's so tricky, I'm actually going to give you alternative language to use instead of I'm trying. I am intentional. I am focused. I am interested in. Wherever possible, replace I'm trying with more powerful language and watch how much stronger you resonate with your audience. And I would love to go on this topic for a long time, and I could, but we don't have the time for that today. So for today, I am going to leave you with that magic formula. It all starts with you as the presenter. Your presentation is going to amplify and multiply your efforts and reflect them back to you in a beautiful, vibrant way. But everything grows and rises to the power of your message. So start with that.